Good evening. My name is Becky Womble, and I'm the President and CEO of the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce. And I want to welcome you to this forum for the Bastrop County Sheriff's Race. With the current world pandemic, we've had to pivot on how we do candidate forums. And so we want to welcome you to this second candidate forum for this election cycle through our BastropVotes.com initiative. Tonight's forum is part of a Chamber of Commerce initiative called Bastrop Votes. The purpose is really simple. It is to promote the vote here in Bastrop and Bastrop County. And we do this in three ways. The first one is we actively register voters to vote in the upcoming elections. We have a website with fair and impartial information about candidates that are seeking office in Bastrop and Bastrop County. And we conduct forums like this so that you can hear directly from the candidates that are running for office, and then will be elected on Tuesday, November 3rd. Since the inception in January of 2016, we've done a total of 14 candidate forums, and again, this is the second for this election cycle. It's a really, really exciting time to be part of Bastrop and Bastrop County, especially since the announcement of the Tesla Gigafactory, which is going to bring tremendous growth to our county. We need visionary leadership, especially during this time where we have a little over 800 square miles that needs to be patrolled by our law enforcement. Before I get started, I want you to know that the slate of questions tonight was assembled and vetted by a 4-member panel made up of our Government Affairs Committee. It was submitted to the moderator in advance, and he had sole discretion over which questions were selected. The questions fell under the following criteria. Questions directed personally at one candidate would not be asked. Questions that were of similar topic matter were combined so that we did not have repetitive subject matters, and rude and inflammatory questions will not be asked. I want to remind the candidates to please speak into your microphones so that the viewers through this webinar can hear you, and this webinar is being recorded. I don't see this happening, but as facilitators, if it becomes necessary, we will mute mics. The forum will end promptly by 6:30 or until we run out of questions, whichever comes first. Also, this forum is being recorded so that we can post on our Bastrop Chamber Facebook page and that we can put on our BastropVotes.com website under the archived forums. Finally, I need to introduce our facilitators. First, tonight with us, we have Dr. Christy Lee, and she is going to be our timekeeper and keep us on track. Christy is a member of our Government Affairs Committee and one of our appointed board members of the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce. So welcome, Christy. Our moderator tonight is Charlie Stone. Mr. Stone is a veteran who served as a U.S. Army helicopter pilot in Vietnam. He's a graduate of Southwest Texas State, now known as Texas State University. He has a degree in law enforcement. Mr. Stone worked as a DPS trooper. He's been in private business. He has served as a county judge in Refugio County from 1991 to 1999. And in 2011, he retired after 14 years of state service, working at the Capitol for a state representative, and finally as an executive director for a state agency. Judge Stone, with a law enforcement degree and having served as a DPS officer, was the ideal candidate for tonight's forum. So, Judge Stone, I'm going to turn this over to you to moderate our forum. All right, we're going to have to unmute you. So there you go. We got you.
Unmuted. I had to get my little mouse in my hand here. So, okay, I'm here. Thank you for that introduction, Becky. I appreciate it. And welcome to both candidates. Tonight we have Sheriff Maurice Cook, who is running for re-election to the position of Bastrop County Sheriff. And his challenger, Mr. Mike Rink, is here also to answer questions, who is also running for County Sheriff. Some protocols that we'd like to go over so the audience that is tuned in by Zoom will understand how we do this forum. So first of all, let me read through this and kind of explain how this goes before we get into the opening statements and questions. First of all, the candidates have already been provided with this information that I'm going to read. And the questions have not been made available to the candidates ahead of time. Each candidate will be admitted the following time limits. There will be a 2-minute opening statement for each candidate, a 1.5-minute response to each question, and then a 1-minute rebuttal if the candidate is asked the question first. And then at the end of the forum, there will be a 2-minute closing statement. The order of questions will go as follows. The opening statement will be determined by alphabetical order for each office. So in this case, Sheriff Cook will go first on the opening statement. The first question will be the first responder with a candidate who was second to make his or her opening statement. And then subsequent questions will alternate between the candidates. So Mr. Rink will be asked the first question. And there are a total of 12 questions that I have that I've selected from a list of 28 questions that were given to me by the 4-member committee. And then we understand that there will be 2 extra questions that we know that we have already that Becky will read later on. And there possibly may be another question to be submitted from people who have attended on the Zoom webinar. So a timer will keep the candidates and the moderator apprised of remaining time. If a candidate is in mid-sentence when the stop sign is shown, he may complete the sentence in as few words as possible. If a candidate attempts to exceed his time allotment, I, the moderator, will inform the candidate that the allotted time has expired and direct the forum to continue to the next candidate. So that's basically the brief rules that we'll go by this evening. We're looking forward to a good interaction and questions being answered. And so candidates, if you're ready for this, I'm ready to start reading. Actually, I'm going to ask for opening statements. Sheriff Cook, you're going first. Whenever you're ready, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, and thank all those that have showed an interest in wanting to participate in your county government. I am Maurice Cook, and I have been the honor to serve as your sheriff for the past 4 years. I want everyone to know that I appreciate and respect the fact that you have entrusted a great responsibility in me to be your sheriff. I have not let you down on that. I promised certain things whenever I was running for sheriff. I promised that, first of all, that I had a 100-day plan. I implemented that 100-day plan, and I promised you that I would put in strong crime control measures. I have done that. I have instituted a strong narcotics aggressive program to target narcotic users and dealers in our county. And it's self-evident if you've kept up with our Facebook post on the sheriff's office that we have done that and committed or completed that commitment, or not completed it, of course, but we have addressed that commitment. We have also reorganized the sheriff's department. That was part of what I said I would do. I do not have a chief deputy as it's traditionally have, as most police departments, or not police departments, sheriff's departments have. But I did that because I'm going to be a working sheriff, and I am a working sheriff. I believe in working every day, and it's a 24-hour job. I don't mind telling you, and it's 7 days a week. I promised that there would be in-person training, and there is an ongoing in-person training. It wasn't just a blip. It continues on, and we improve on that every chance we get. We have leadership training. In fact, for the first time in the history of the Bastrop Sheriff's Office, we had someone attend the FBI National Academy. One of our command staff went there. It's funded by the FBI, and it's a highly prestigious class, and we had one of our captains go to that. We have...
Sheriff, that's it right there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rink, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Mike Rink, and I am a fourth-generation resident of Bastrop County, a third-generation law enforcement officer. I studied postgraduate work in criminal justice administration at Texas State, and my undergraduate degree is in education with a secondary teaching certificate. I believe that I have a lot to bring to the sheriff's office. I was there for 2 years prior to becoming a federal law enforcement officer under Sheriff Con Kersey. There has been a lot in the news lately about the way people are wanting to defund fund sheriff's departments or police departments because of a lot of the way that officers have been dealing with situations. I believe there are better ways to deal with these situations, and that's what I'm going to focus the training on. I plan on bringing a lot of training in. I'm bringing us an experienced senior staff in with me also. They're all experienced in their individual areas of law enforcement. I see being a sheriff kind of like being a head football coach. The head football coach doesn't win the football game, but the head football coach hires the assistant coaches, which are specialists in their areas, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and they train the players. I've got the experienced staff coming on board with me, probably with over 150 years combined law enforcement experience. And I think that it's time for a change to bring up some of the more modern methods that are coming out in law enforcement. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, we're ready to start with question number 1. So Mr. Rink, this will be your question first. You'll have 1.5 minutes for your answer. And then Sheriff Cook will have 1.5 minutes to answer the question. And then Mr. Rink, you'll be given another minute for any rebuttal or anything else you want to talk about. So here we go, question number 1 to Mr. Rink. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution protects the individual right to keep and bear arms. How do you feel about the Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment is a very important thing. I'm a life member of the National Rifle Association and a National Rifle Association certified firearms instructor. So I believe very strongly in a citizen's right to bear arms. We should have them for our protection, especially in a county our size with the amount of officers that we have. You need to be able to protect yourself because it takes a while before you can get the cavalry to show up. It's a right that I believe in and that I will defend with my last breath, is the right to have firearms. That's pretty much sums it all up.
Okay, thank you very much. Sheriff Cook?
Well, you know, the Second Amendment has been somewhat controversial in the last few years especially. I am an avid supporter of the Second Amendment and feel like that's an inherent right that we all have in the United States. You know, it says you have the right to bear arms. It doesn't say you have the right to the government to restrict that bearing of the arms. So, you know, I'm an advocate of that. I promote that. I am also, or have been, a member of NRA. In fact, I have a pistol record that I earned years ago where I was the co-holder of a national pistol record from the NRA. So I'm a supporter of NRA. I'm a supporter of the right to bear arms. I think that all citizens should have the right to have firearms under some circumstances. You know, they're automatic weapons and so forth. The federal government regulates those. There probably needs to be some regulation on those, but bearing arms is the traditional right that we all are to have here in the United States. And I certainly will do my part in seeing that the people can have that right to bear arms in Bastrop County. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Rink, you have another minute if you want to add anything to that question. I'm not hearing anything.
I have nothing to add to that. I believe that it's we're in agreement on that subject.
Okay, thank you. I did not hear a response. I want to make sure we didn't lose your microphone. And for the candidates.
Charlie, just a minute. Mike, if you'll go ahead and leave your mic unmuted, I think we're okay. So that way we don't have that transition.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. And to both candidates, if you need me to repeat the questions, please feel free to ask me to do that. There's no penalty for that, and it won't take away from your time. Your time starts when you start talking, so it's okay. So we'll move to question number 2, and Sheriff Cook, this is for you first here. Over the last 6 months, protests have become more common and even contentious. What would you do to protect First Amendment rights in Bastrop County?
Well, first of all, protecting rights starts with a well-trained organization so we know what the rights are. I think that everyone has the right to peacefully assemble. I don't think people have the right to assemble and create anarchy. Whenever it gets beyond the point of peaceful assembly, I think that then you're encroaching on other people's rights, and that's what law enforcement is created for. We're here to protect society against each other, actually, in society. So I feel like that I will do the things that's necessary to protect the citizens of Bastrop County should we be met with such resistance and so forth. Hopefully we won't have to do that. We're in a rural county. We have a reputation of strong law enforcement in this county, and I think that because of that, we enjoy a good position as far as avoiding those situations. That's it. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink, you have a minute and a half.
I believe in the right to peacefully assemble and protest as well. Some of the problems we've been experiencing in law enforcement across the country is the way that they are reacting to the demonstrators, that instead of de-escalating situations, they are escalating situations. There are certain crowd control devices that have been used but not used properly, such as a beanbag launching shotgun. They shouldn't be aimed at somebody's head. They should be aimed at the middle, at the body, at the torso, center mass. And that's why there's been a lot of those injuries, because there's not been an effective amount of training in these devices. And that's what part of the training is that I plan on bringing, is how to properly use some of this equipment that is not normally used in day-to-day policing, but is going to be needed more, it appears, as time goes on. The Federal Bureau of Prisons, where I received my training at, is probably one of the leading experts in crowd control and crowd control device usage. And I plan on bringing that level of federal training to my officers. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook, you have another minute if you have anything else to add or rebuttal.
Yes, first of all, my observation, of course, we have to use the media for that observation a lot, but I think the police have been more than reserved. You know, when people are hollering in your face, spitting on you, throwing Molotov cocktails at you, and doing all the things that we've seen on TV, then I think the police have been more than reserved. As far as training, our officers are in the process of receiving some training on beanbag deployment. That is something that you have to be trained on. You have to know how to deploy it. You have to know where to shoot. You have to know all those things, but it goes beyond beanbag deployment. There are other non-lethal deployment that officers need to be trained in. And I think that we should continue to train our officers in this non-lethal deployment. But I believe our officers have been more than reserved across the United States on these anarchists. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, question number 3. This is for Mr. Rink. A Texas study found that there are more than 300,000 victims of human trafficking, including almost 79,000 minors and youth victims of sex trafficking, and nearly 234,000 adult victims of labor trafficking. What are you doing, or would you do, to address this issue in Bastrop County?
One of the things I believe that is needed in that is to have more officer contact with the residents of the county to get to know who is where and doing what. Officer presence being the greatest deterrent there is to crime. Just the actual visual presence of patrols on our back roads will help put a pressure on the criminals that are conducting and committing crimes. The human trafficking is a horrible thing, and I'm hoping it's not as bad in Bastrop County as it is in some other areas, especially in Texas and our southern states. But it's something that falls down to education of the public, education and training of the officers, and coming up with people that are not afraid to come to the sheriff's office and complain about it or let us know about these things. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook.
Well, human trafficking, we've had one of our command staff on a committee that was educating or providing education for our officers. We have attended some seminars and so forth dealing with human trafficking. Fortunately, in Bastrop County, we've not had a large amount of human trafficking. In fact, we've had very little human trafficking, but we are aware that it is a national issue. on human trafficking, and I agree that it is a deplorable thing to put people in slavery or make them pay for their way and so forth, and do all those things that human trafficking stands for. We have partnered at times with TABC. TABC has had an interest in human trafficking, and as you know, a lot of human trafficking goes through local bars. We have been aware of that. We have been promoting, working with TABC and other law enforcement agencies, and we've done some of this, like I say, through the committee that we've had access to, and I can assure you that when the time comes to work on human trafficking, we will do that. It would be a high priority in the sheriff's office in order for us to address human trafficking. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink, you have another minute left on that question if you'd like to add anything.
Not much to add. It seems that we're in agreement on that as well, that human trafficking is not yet a bad problem in Bastrop County, but we need to be able to detect it and be informed of it whenever it does occur.
All right, we'll move to question number 4. Sheriff Cook, this is your question. If elected, well, since you're already elected, but what plans do you have to increase diversity among the sheriff department ranks, including its leadership?
When you say diversity, can you explain that just a little bit?
Different nationalities, races.
Diversity? Okay.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
We have, quite honestly, we do that all the time because as we promote people into the sheriff's office or hire people in the sheriff's office, we do it through an interview board process. They all come before a board. They're all looked at. We have done extensive recruiting. We've done it from the military. We've gone to Fort Hood. We've talked to the military. We've tried to entice or attract, I guess would be the better word, people to come and work for the sheriff's office. We have a good diversity in the jail. We have a lot of females in the jail. We have Hispanics in the jail. We have people of color in the jail. We also, in our patrol ranks, we also have the same type of diversity. It's not where I would like it. It's not where it should be, but I still would like to promote it better. When I was in the Rangers, we had the first black was hired whenever I was the chairman of the interview board. The first female was hired when I was chairman of the interview. So I am closely in step with diversity in the sheriff's office, and that is one of our priorities to do. And I will continue that priority if I'm elected sheriff. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink.
I believe that the department should reflect the community as best possible. I don't believe in hiring quotas, but the senior command staff that I'm bringing along with me happens to be a very good representation of the community here in Bastrop County. And they are not coming on board because of their gender or ethnicity or race. They're coming on board because they are the best people that I know for that position. And that's what we need to have, is quality people. And there are plenty of people that are well qualified for the positions, and that's where we need to have is the best qualified people on the department. And that's what I'm going to be aiming for and bringing with me on the senior management team. Thank you.
Sheriff Cook, you have another minute for any other information you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think our senior management team at the sheriff's office at this time is second to none. We have a major, or a retired major from the Department of Public Safety that heads our special operations. We have another 20-year person to hire that heads up the CID. We have a 20-year person that heads up the patrol. We also have a female correctional person that's in charge of the jail. She's a jail captain. When I came on board, she was making less money than the male captains. And the first thing I did is went to the judge and said, her pay is different than the male captains. And he adjusted the pay. That was within the first month or two that I was in office. And so I believe in diversity and equality for all our staff. Thank you.
All right, question number 5, Mr. Rink, this will be for you. Do you support the Black Lives Matter movement, and what steps would you take if a Black Lives Matter protest came to Bastrop County?
Just like any protest that would happen, we would want to monitor it to make sure that it remained peaceful. As long as it was peaceful and not obstructing anything, then that would be fine. That's the right. You know, you have the right to protest and let your voice be heard, but it must remain peaceful. The Black Lives Matter movement, it's a shame that we need that, but it does appear that we have a need for that. I myself believe that all lives matter, but right now people need to be reminded, more importantly it seems, that Black lives matter, given the recent circumstances that are going on. We need to also be training our officers in properly restraining people and not going to extremes. You know, putting your knee on somebody's neck is not always needed. Having somebody face down whenever they are having breathing problems is not always needed. You need to be a little bit more compassionate, even when you're dealing with the bad guys, as long as they're being non-combative. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook.
Well, with the Black Lives Matter, I haven't seen an issue in this county as far as the mission of the Black Lives Matter. There have been some different gatherings and so forth where they promote Black Lives Matter. There has not been an issue. I think that the citizens of Bastrop County are well-mannered and well, I'm trying to think of the proper words, but they understand, and they're the kind of people that don't promote anarchism and so forth. And we've seen the Black Lives Matter and all across the United States. And some of the things that Black Lives Matter, I can tell you that I do not promote or condone. Black Lives Matter, sure they matter. Do all lives matter? Certainly. Your life matters. The people that are listening tonight, their lives matter. And the job of a sheriff is to protect everyone, not just anyone, everyone. And not only that, but training is how we protect and accomplish that so that we do not encroach upon someone else's right or take someone's life that we shouldn't take. Good training, honest law enforcement, strong law enforcement, it all goes hand in hand with protecting against some of the things that we've seen on TV and so forth with regard to Black Lives Matter and some of the things.
Okay, sure. All right, thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Rink, you have another minute if you don't want to add anything.
Again, it seems that we are in agreement on that. It's not a big problem here in Bastrop County so far. Hopefully we don't have anyone come in trying to stir up problems during our peaceful protest. And all lives matter, but right now it's important that we remind people that Black Lives Matter, since that has been where we've had issues across the nation. Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving to question number 6. This will be for Sheriff Cook first. When it comes to use of excessive force, what special training are deputies receiving or will they receive to help avoid the kind of situations reported in the national news where individuals end up dead at the hands of law enforcement?
Well, recently we reviewed one of our personnel's, one of the deputies' files, just to see how much use of force training he's got in the last 4 years. And out of that, and the training classes that he's got, in almost every training class, there was some aspect of the use of force. We have right now on schedule a use of force class that's going to be taught by an outside instructor that's going to be coming here. It's going to be at the PAC Center. And we are promoting it, and because we are now a training facility that TICO has authorized us to be a training provider, which is a big accomplishment, incidentally, for us to have that. And so we're bringing that, and it will be lots of other officers, not just us, be a large group of officers, and we will be concentrating on things that have been in the national news and how to prevent that from coming to Bastrop County. So use of force, very important to the Sheriff's Office. I've been a use of force expert witness. I know what we need to be training, and we have been training in that area. So use of force, I can't talk enough about use of force and the importance of use of force and to properly use the use of force. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink.
Federal Bureau of Prisons many years ago developed a use of force model, and it's a stair-step thing, stair-steps on both sides. If this is what the resistance is, this is what the response should be. If it escalates to this, then you escalate to that. It was so good that the rest of the federal law enforcement agencies have adopted it and use it in their training now, and it's out in the public also now. That's something I plan on getting out to everyone also, is making sure that we concentrate more on de-escalating than on escalating. It's a lot easier to talk somebody down than it is to fight them. We need to have the training on dealing with crises and how to peacefully settle them and not turn them into something horrible. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook, you have another minute if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think Mike's talking about the use of force continuum, and some of that is kind of going away. I don't disagree with the other statements, about training and so forth, and the de-escalation. We have taught de-escalation to our deputies. In fact, we've had some of them to repeat it because we felt like they needed to repeat de-escalation. De-escalation is a very viable part of the use of force training, and we're going to continue to do that if I'm elected sheriff. I can't say enough about de-escalation training, but the use of force training is something that our employees get, our deputies get, our jailers get. In fact, our jailers get it regularly because you can imagine in their setting that they're faced with use of force on a regular basis, moving people out of cells and different places. So use of force, very important, very well targeted by our agency as far as promoting the use of force training. Thank you.
All right, question number 7. This will be for Mr. Rink. What improvements can be made to improve the overall cooperation between all first responders, which includes law enforcement, fire departments, and EMS?
I believe we need to have regular meetings with everybody, getting together, getting to know each other, so you can get along with each other, and have meetings to kind of discuss what should be done in which way. If there's a wreck, when should things get there? If there's a standoff, barricaded situation, when should the first responders like the medics come in? Or when should they stay back? How would they know when to come in? We need to just open the lines of communication. Better communication is the answer to so many problems. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook.
Well, first of all, when I came into office, that was one of the things that I said I would do, and I lived up to my promise on that too, and that we would coordinate better with the local agencies. There was no monthly meetings or anything, and before COVID, all the police departments in the area would come together, but we would meet at different places. I was the one that organized that, but I was not met with any resistance. They embraced it. It was something that they were looking for, coordination among the agencies. The Highway Patrol is there. We would invite the district attorney, and we talked about things that were of common interest. As far as responding to some of these issues and so forth, we have an SRT team that is available in the area to respond to difficult situations or to execute high-level warrants. So we have a lot of things already in place. These are things that we've already foreseen, and I just believe that cooperation among the agencies is vital. It wasn't 3 or 4 months ago that the county judge and the fire chiefs and all that met in the county courtroom, and we discussed issues of common goals. And so this is something that's ongoing. As soon as COVID's over with, and I can't wait for that to happen. As soon as it's over with, we can start meeting face to face. All the chiefs are going to participate. I feel real comfortable, and we'll be doing that again. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink, you have another minute to respond.
I would not have stopped the meetings just because of COVID. I would have meetings such as this, virtual meetings with everyone, so we can continue to have open lines of communication and keep on the same page with everything. Other than that, it sounds like we're on the same page with that issue as well. Thank you.
All right, question number 8. This goes to Sheriff Cook. How many deputies do we need in relation to the population of Bastrop County? And do we currently have enough to meet the needs of a rapidly growing county?
Well, no, we do not have enough. And the national average is 2.6 to 2.8, somewhere around in there. Depends on which agency you're getting your stats from. Do we need that many? That would be twice as many deputies as we have. We have about 81 deputies now that are commissioned deputies. We have 108 jailers. So how many would it take? You know what? I wouldn't turn down any. If the judge would want to come to me tomorrow and say, I want to give you 200 deputies, I'd say, thank you, Judge. And I might even kiss him on the cheek, because that would be something that we would want, we would ask for, we beg each time. I asked for additional deputies this time. I was trying to get 4 to fill out a shift, and I got 1.5 patrol deputies, and I got 1 CID deputy. So the county government is funding us with additional people from time to time. It's not at the pace that I'd like, but I'm not going to get into a position where I'm going to fall out with the county commissioners over the budget process, simply because I think if we work together, we can solve this problem, and we can get more deputies as we go along. I will continue to ask for more personnel because we are understaffed. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink.
I agree that you can almost never have enough officers to cover. Even though if he has 81 right now working for him, you've always got the ones that are out on vacation, that are sick. So you need to be able to have some depth to your department. And yes, the commissioners are cognizant of the amount of money that's being spent, because they want to keep the taxpayers' property taxes as low as possible. But as our county grows, we're going to have to increase our department. And we have been, because back when I was with the department, we had, I believe, 14 patrol deputies at the time, and now up to 81. That's good. And that still is not enough to cover the population that we have. And we have the same square miles, but we have a lot more density coming up in pockets that need to have more attention paid out in the unincorporated areas. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook, you have another minute if you want to add anything.
Yes, you know, we have, and he's right, we do have people that are off training here or there, or getting comp time for this or FMLA. We have all kinds of issues. We probably have about 6 or 7 patrol deputies on duty at one time. It's a luxury if we have 8 or more. We do have an explosion in the county. We asked for more deputies, and when I took office, we had not had a new deputy except for a park deputy of all things, but we've had only 1 new deputy within the past 8 years. So I feel real comfortable that we've grown about 5, 6, 7, 8, probably 7 patrol deputies in the last 4 years that I've been in office, and I'll continue to work with the judge and the county leaders in order to meet those needs so we can provide better services to the people of Bastrop County. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Becky. I believe she has some information that she'd like to share with everyone on this Zoom meeting today.
Well, we're about 40 minutes into our candidate forum, and so we're going to give our 2 candidates a little bit of a break, get a drink of water and relax a moment. But first of all, I want to remind you that early voting starts on Tuesday, October 13th and goes to Friday, October 30th. During the first 2 weeks of early voting, basically the time is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., except for those Sundays when it is 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. The third week, the time expands from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And there's actually 4 different early voting locations across our county. The first one is the Bastrop County Courthouse. The second one is the Smithville City Hall. The third is Cedar Creek United Methodist Church out on FM 35 in Cedar Creek. And then the fourth one is at the Elgin Public Library in Elgin, Texas. So I would highly suggest that you go during early voting so you can avoid the lines on Election Day and not have to find a polling spot. The Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd. And like I said, there's going to be polling sites all across the county. Secondly, to save yourself some time at the polls, I would highly suggest that you print off a sample ballot. I know personally that every time I print off that ballot, there's something on the ballot that surprises me that I get to vote on that I wasn't aware of. So print off that sample ballot, mark it up, and take that to the polls with you, because you cannot use any kind of electronic device such as your cell phone or a tablet, but you are allowed to carry in a paper ballot that has your notes and who you would like to vote for. So do your homework and get it done early. And then lastly, I wanted to remind you that House Bill 25 went into effect on September 1st, which eliminates the straight party ticket voting. Personally, I think that this is a great idea, and then again, it's my personal opinion. My husband ran for a school board position in our previous community, and that election was in November, and literally school board and city council candidates got 20% fewer votes because of the straight party ticket voting. So if you do want to vote for one particular party, you'll have to go in there and individually mark each candidate down the ballot. And then lastly, just again, thank you for tuning in to this candidate forum, and we will turn it back over to Charlie. Charlie, take it away.
Okay. I'm unmuted now, is that right? Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, great. All right, we're moving to question number 9, and this will be for Mr. Rink. Many counties have inmate work programs. It requires one jailer to every 6 or 7 inmate trustees. The inmates like it because they get out, and the public loves it because there's free labor to improve the infrastructure of the community. How do you feel about work programs, and is this something that you would keep or implement if elected?
I am all for the public having the inmates that have committed crimes against them in the county going out and doing retribution by doing good works, such as litter patrols, trimming up trees on the sides of our county roads, not on the state highway maintained roadways, but out in the on our county roads. And yes, that's something I brought up last election and spoke with several commissioners about it. What I would want is not to necessarily take one of my correctional officers from the jail and have them go out with them, but to get the commissioner possibly to let me give the training to get a certified correctional officer license to one of their employees, then they could take and be responsible for taking care of the work crews. And if that's not viable, then yes, if you have a correctional officer out with a work crew of 7 or 8 inmates, then that's that many less you have to worry about in the jail. And it's a good thing all the way around, I think. And it's something I do plan on implementing, is to have inmate work crews. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook.
Yes, I've talked to the jail captain about this, and she's adamantly opposed to it. I've had discussions with the commissioners along the lines of them training people to do the same thing, because if you have someone watching and they have to be a jailer, so you have to have the training there. The problem is people come into the jail and they don't stay in there but a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks sometimes, and they're bonded out. Some bond out the next day. It's difficult to find this pool of people to work, and especially during COVID, we've had an extreme problem of just getting enough people to clean the jail and clean the front office. We don't have a janitorial service at the law enforcement center. We do use trustees to clean that office. It takes a correctional person or a jailer to there monitor them and make sure they're doing it right. And I can tell you that the class of jailer, the inmates that we're getting these days don't want to work, but they find it a lot more enjoyable to lay back there in an air-conditioned room rather than be out in 100-degree weather. They don't want to cut the yard. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. They simply don't want to cooperate with that type of work program. And so that was the reason the jail captain has spoken up so much against it. And quite honestly, we're taxed real closely on the number of jailers we got. And so we can't promote that program with our own jailers. So it's not something that I'm always open to new suggestions, and I got to stop there.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Rink, anything else you want to add to that question?
As I said, I plan on trying to get the commissioners to let me put one of their employees in their precinct through the training so they would be a certified correctional officer and could watch the trustees on the work crew, if you would. And these are not going to be just anybody that can go out there. They're not going to be anyone that's a threat to society, no one that's committed a felony type crime. These would be the ones that are working off their running the stop sign parking ticket or traffic ticket that are low-level offenders, just like what we used at the federal prison. We had a work crew that would go down to Camp Swift and clean Camp Swift. The low-level offenders would take care of the highway right in front of the prison as well, keeping it clean and mowed. So it's a viable solution, I think, and they committed crimes. They need to repay the community with work. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Question number 10. This will be for Sheriff Cook. What is your view of the Commissioners Court relationship with the Sheriff's Department as it relates to management of county operations and public safety?
Well, I think it's good. Our commissioners, I have a lot of respect for the job that they do. I've spent a lot of time building rapport with them. We work well together. I don't hesitate to call one of them up. I have all their cell phones. I call them at different times, not necessarily 8 to 5. We have discussions. So I think that the Commissioners Court does a reasonably good job of promoting the Sheriff's Office and its goals and its objectives in regards to a lot of things. You know, we can't operate as a Sheriff's Department without having the support of the Commissioners Court and the judge, because they manage our budget. They tell us how much money we can have. They also have the power to do ordinances in the county on a limited basis, I might add, because they got to have statutory authority to do that. And so they've helped us manage when we had suggestions on different types of ordinances and so forth in the county, or how to modify the shooting ordinance. We've worked together on that. So I think we work well together on that. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink.
It seems to me that there is a good working relationship currently between the Sheriff's Office and the Commissioners. I plan on continuing that and keeping it an open line of communication between them and the Sheriff's Office. I don't foresee any problems. The Commissioners are all good people. The county judge is a good person, and they have the best interest of the county in mind. So that's about all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Okay, Sheriff Cook, anything you want to add?
No, I don't guess I can say enough about the fact that our commissioners work well with me. I try to work well with them. I don't get everything I want. I ask for more than I can get, but they're always agreeable to sit down. And I found if I can justify it, I spend a lot of time trying to justify issues that I need to get the support of the Commissioners Court. So I sit down with them. I try to justify it. And, you know, if I can't justify it, I don't expect them to respond. But if I can justify it, I found that they do respond and they do support the Sheriff's Office, and not just the Sheriff. They support the Sheriff's Office and they support good law and order. They are a credit to our community as far as promoting law enforcement. I'd like to put that plug in there for them because I feel sincerely that they do promote good law enforcement. Thank you.
All right. Question number 11, this is for Mr. Rink. Jail administration is one of the duties of the sheriff. Elaborate on your experience you have in this area.
When I went to work for the Sheriff's Office, we had just taken over and opened up the new jail facility up there. Again, I spent 21 years as an officer with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and so I'm very familiar with correctional tactics and techniques. I have someone that will be coming on board with me who is a retired operations lieutenant from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, who is going to make sure that all of the correctional officers have Federal Bureau of Prisons level training in how to deal with inmates and how to de-escalate both on patrol and in the jail. My officers are going to have more than enough de-escalation training. Because as I said before, I found out early in my career, it's a lot easier to talk somebody down than it is to fight them. And you talk them down, there's no problems. You fight them, somebody's going to get hurt. There's going to be a lot of other issues and possibly, legal actions. So that's the big thing. The jail is a big part of the sheriff's office, and it needs to be ran right, and everybody needs to have the same training so they're all on the same page in how they do their duties within the correctional facility. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook.
Yeah, first of all, I've been a peace officer for over 50 years. And as a peace officer, I've had a lot of contact with jailers. When I taught at Alvin College for 13 years, part of my teaching was in a correctional course. I've actually taught an academic course in corrections. I think that we have to closely monitor the jail and the jail security. Right now, we've asked Commissioner's Court to allow us to present him a program where we could get a new video system in the jail. I think their video system is paramount for our security in the jail. So I think that just evaluating it, being able to analytically approach the problems that happen in the jail. I use my peace officer experience. I use my lawyer experience to do that. There's not a day that goes by I don't use my legal experience. I have an open door policy. Jailers come in. Anytime a jailer exits employment, I visit with that jailer. I have a policy that I want to know what's going on and why they're leaving. And so I've educated myself on the process of the jail. Thank
Okay, Mr. Rink, you have anything to add?
I'm glad to hear that they're looking at upgrading the closed circuit television system there. I have experience in that. I installed the one out at the federal prison here at FCI Bastrop, and the video helps you identify problems, and it also answers questions because it's a silent witness and it tells the truth. You have it on tape or on digital recording as it is now. There's no dispute as to what happened in a situation. It's all right there. And I plan on upgrading that system as well as putting some other electronic systems in the jail as the budget would allow. Thank you.
All right, question number 12. This is all I've got, folks, here. So Becky will have a few more in a moment, but question number 12, the last one from the moderator, goes to Sheriff Cook. What are the top 3 public safety issues affecting Bastrop County, and how would you address them?
Well, I think on public safety, we all are concerned with COVID at this time. What do we do with COVID? How do we approach it? Whenever I was faced with that in March, early on, we set in some guidelines to address that in the jail. We quarantined incoming prisoners. We tested them as best we could for fever and so forth before we allowed them even out of the Sally Port. They had fever, they had to leave. So COVID, one of the priorities obviously is how do we address COVID-19 and how do we address the post results of it. There are other issues promoting leadership in the county. I think that when we promote leadership, we promote a lot of other things. So one of the things that I think that we should do is promote leadership so that the deputies want to go to work. They feel like they've got a good place to work. And so we promote leadership. Professionalism is another key area. Professionalism encompasses a lot of things. You think about it, professionalism encompasses training. It encompasses attitudes. It encompasses policies. I've rewritten all the policies at the Sheriff's Department. I say rewritten and all. I've expanded on all of it and so forth. And
Sure.
so, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rink.
One of the biggest issues I believe right now is restoring the public's trust in the sheriff's office. There's been a lot of people I've met as I've been out putting up signs and handing out my literature that don't feel that they could go up to a deputy and say something. They're not as trusting as you would hope they would be. of the office. And that's the first thing I want to do, is to restore the public trust by going out and having community meetings with them. Another big problem we have is the drugs in the county. We need to start really cracking down on drugs. I know we've had a couple of recent drug busts, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. We need to really start going out and cutting down on the drug sales and the drug manufacturing, especially methamphetamine in the county. That's two big things. The way that our officers, be it in the jail dealing with a prisoner or a patrol officer on the street, the way they deal with people, they need to have interpersonal communication training so that they will not make somebody feel as threatened whenever they are dealing with them, so they will not be automatically defensive, so they'll be more forthcoming and cooperative. That's probably the third thing, is in how our officers deal with the citizens that they encounter. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff Cook, you have another minute to anything else.
Well, professionalism takes care of a lot of that, how we deal with the public, because if we're dealing as professionals, we are dealing with the public effectively. I agree with the drug enforcement. There's things that we need to do, but that's crime control. I'm strong for crime control on all areas of crime control. And we have issued, last year we had 33 search warrants on narcotics that we issued. This year we'll surpass that. We are making a dent, at least, into the drug trafficking in the county. There are all kinds of priorities. When I walk out of here tonight, there may be a shift in priorities, because we could have a serial rapist, or we could have something else going on in the community that demands our attention. So when you talk about priorities, it's difficult to say this is 1, 2, 3. I think it's a series of things that we just address the things that we can, and we address the things that immediately need addressing.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right, Becky, I think you've got a couple of extra questions, I believe, that you would like to ask. I'll turn it back over to you.
I sure do. I have a couple that were submitted. So this first one's a little bit long, and I'll repeat it if I need to. But it's, do you have your peace officer's license and or all needed qualifications to immediately step into the role of sheriff if elected or re-elected? If not, what is lacking and what time period are you looking at before you could actively take over the sheriff's duties and responsibilities? Also, if you are not currently properly licensed, why not? And who will be paying for this training and or licensing?
Okay, to keep our current rotation accurate, this would be for Mr. Rink. That was a long question. If we need to read it again, because I didn't tell you it was going to be your question first, Mr. Rink, but are you ready for it, or would you like to hear it again?
I believe I have the gist of it.
Okay, go ahead then.
I do not currently have a Texas Peace Officer certification, but I am a federal law enforcement officer. I was certified as a federal law enforcement officer. It is not required that you have your state peace officer certification. Whenever you are elected sheriff, you are required to obtain it within the first 6 months of assuming the office, and it's a 40-hour class that you have to take. That's about it, I guess. I should have answered it, I think.
The second part of it was, and who will be paying for this training and or licensing?
I don't know what the cost of it is, but I'd be happy to pay for it out of my own pocket.
Are you finished?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to interrupt. You had a little more time left. Sheriff Cook, your turn.
Well, I have been commissioned as a Texas peace officer for the last 50 years or so. So there would be no training and so forth. I would just continue on in office as I am now. I've been in all aspects of training with the Texas Rangers, with the local police department. I was a policeman at one time. I've been an educator. I'm an attorney. So it would not require any additional training for me in the years to come if I was reelected for sheriff. I see that the taxpayers have already invested a lot of money in me over the years, because I had a lot of peace officers training. I've had thousands of hours of peace officers training. Most of that was paid for by the taxpayers. That's one reason I'm running for sheriff and want to be your sheriff. It's because I want to get back to the community, because they have financed me through my education and especially my law enforcement experience. But as far as I've been to the FBI National Academy, I've been to Police Staff and Command. So the public has a big investment in me already. So I won't have to pay anything back. I've already got the peace officers training and so forth in place. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink, you have another minute if you want to add anything.
I'd just like to add that, yes, I've attended the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe and the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Artesia, New Mexico for advanced training. And I also have attended training at the FBI National Academy in the past. And that was specifically in hostage negotiation training. And it will be no challenge whatsoever for me to get my Texas Peace Officer certification. Thank you.
Okay. All right, the next question, Sheriff Cook, this will be for you. This is the last question, I believe, for the whole series here.
Yes. The question says, if any time while you are in office and a gun registration or gun ban is implemented for all legal gun owners, what would your position be? Enforce that ban and registration or uphold the Second Amendment of the Constitution?
Well, you make it a conflict there, because whenever you say uphold the Constitution, I've taken an oath that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Texas. That oath was given to me when I took over as sheriff. So I'm going to uphold the Constitution, but you got to understand that there's things that pass from the Constitution, which are the laws. The legislatures get their power from the Constitution. That's how they pass laws. Am I going to ignore a law? I am not going to ignore a law. Am I going to aggressively get out there and enforce the law? That might be a decision that I would have to be faced with. But I'm a gun owner. I got a lot of guns. I like my guns. I can't shoot for one at a time, but I can sure look at it all the time. So I appreciate gun ownership. And if there's a law that prohibits me from owning it, I certainly will not like that law, and I'll do everything I can to fight to keep that law from ever being passed. So, thank you.
All right, Mr. Rink.
I agree. I would do everything I could to lobby against such a law. I don't believe it would be a good law. I also do not believe it would be a very easily enforced law without going in and searching everyone's house. How can you make sure that they don't have a gun? And you can't get a search warrant just on the suspicion. So I'm hoping that does not come to be, but I also have sworn to uphold the Constitution, and at the same time you have officer discretion where you can kind of decide where your priorities are. And to me, I don't believe that would be a very big priority to do that. It would take a lot of manpower, and I think it'd be impossible to go enforce it and find everyone who had a gun and take their gun from them. I don't think that's a good idea whatsoever. So I would do everything I could to fight that law from being enacted. Thank you.
Sheriff Cook, last 1 minute.
Well, I agree that as far as fighting to keep the law from being passed, I think that's where we need to show our due diligence is to keep that from happening to begin with. If it does happen, then all laws are enforced by community standards a lot of times. The community allows you to enforce the law. The district attorney is locally elected and so forth, and we submit cases to him, and he goes through the cases and he decides a lot of times on how to prosecute it. But I would be one for opposing that, doing everything I could to keep it from happening. But I am an advocate of enforcing the rule of law, and I've done that all my 50-something years. And so I don't see any changes in my latter years. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, that concludes all of the questions that we have. So the remaining 2 items are the closing statements from the candidates. And this is 2 minutes each. Mr. Rink, you're still in the rotation, so you get to go first on your closing statement, followed by the sheriff.
All right, thank you. Going off of that last question there, I believe that it's very important that people learn how to own guns safely, how to have them safe in their house. And I plan on having a lot of community involvement, including reaching out to some of our local firearms instructors and asking them to voluntarily put on some classes where people in the county can come in and learn not how to shoot the guns, but how to best keep them safe and available so that they're readily there if they're needed, but to keep them away from their children so that they don't have accidental discharges. The other thing I would like to say is, yes, we need to have more community involvement. I plan on expanding the citizen volunteers and their involvement with the department in helping search and rescue for a missing child or a elderly person who has wandered off somewhere. There's a lot of good talent in our community, and we can get a lot of help done with our limited manpower we have on the payroll with the Sheriff's Department. There's volunteers that are happy to come out and help us, not talking about help us in going into a barricaded situation, but to help us with some of the other public service aspects of the Sheriff's Department. So I want more community involvement. I want to reach out and help restore trust in the community. I want to crack down on drugs, and I want to focus big on interpersonal communications so that our officers know how to de-escalate situations instead of escalating them. Thank you.
All right, so Sheriff Cook.
Well, first of all, let me thank everyone for allowing me to serve as your sheriff the last 4 years. I can assure you that if you elect me to serve as sheriff for the next 4 years, I'll be as dedicated as I have in the first 4 years. I'm proud of my record during the first 4 years, and I look to continue as your sheriff. We talk about community involvement. I think that as a sheriff, I have been involved in the community at the highest level. I belong to all the Chamber of Commerce's in the county. Not that I belong to them, but I attend and support them. And I have a good rapport with the members of the Chamber of Commerce in Elgin and Smithville and Bastrop. I really miss the opportunity to go to luncheons and be around those business leaders and the people that attend those, the citizens that are engaged in our community. The best part of being a sheriff of this county is the people. I enjoy the people. I enjoy being around people. I enjoy engaging with people. I have an open door policy. People come in the sheriff's office all the time and don't have an appointment. I see those people. I want to know what's going on in the community. So, I just feel like, I love Bastrop, in the richest sense. It's just part of me now. And even when I was a Texas Ranger and the chief of the Texas Rangers, it didn't mean as much to me as it does right now to be your sheriff. And I am proud to be your sheriff. I hope you're proud of me as your sheriff. And I want to say, God bless you for what you're doing, and thank the Chamber, and God bless Texas, and just God bless everybody, because I just feel that way. I feel really good. And so thank you, Becky, and the rest of the Chamber for putting this on and allowing us to address the good people of Bastrop County. Thank you.
All right, Sheriff. Well, thank you. I want to say thanks to both of the candidates. Thank you all for your willingness to step up and be public servants and serve your fellow citizens. It's a big job to be sheriff in just about any county in the state of Texas. So I'll turn it back over to Becky now.
Well, thank you so much for being willing to be a part of this candidate forum. I need to recognize a few people tonight. First of all, I need to recognize Chris White. He's our communication and media manager and literally my right-hand man. Chris and I were reminiscing today and talking about this initiative and how we started in 2016. And he reminded me that he was one of the students behind the cameras when we had our primaries, and there were 8 people in the race for the Republican side. And he was a student behind the camera in the spring of 2016, and now he's the man running the show. So it just shows the partnerships that we have here in Bastrop. And anyways, really proud to have him as part of my team here at the Chamber. I also have to thank Pam Ferguson, our business manager. She kept us caffeinated and sugared up today so we could get through this long day that started very early this morning. I have to also thank our Government Affairs Committee for their support and our Board of Directors led by Lori Tuggle. And then, of course, Dr. Christy Lee. Thank you for helping us out as our timekeeper tonight, always promoting the Bastrop Independent School District and always being such a great community partner. And lastly, all the way up there in Colorado, we have to thank Judge Stone for moderating this. Thank you again for letting me call on you. You were the perfect moderator today with your law enforcement background and having been a former elected official and DPS officer. So thank you for your service and thank you for helping us provide this service to our community. And then finally to you two candidates, thank you so much. I know that this was not a fun seat to be in. It was a hot seat and you didn't know what questions were going to be thrown at you, but thank you for trusting us to put on this forum. We can literally say we've basically had 100% participation in our candidate forum since we started them. So thank you very much. I do want to let you know that the forum from last night has finally uploaded. So if you want to go to our Facebook page or bastropvotes.com, the Bastrop ISD Place 4 forum is up and running. So you can go up there and look at it. And then again, like I always say, in December of 2015, bastropvotes.com was just a great idea. But today it's a successful initiative that provides and makes a difference here in Bastrop and Bastrop County when it comes to the elected officials in our community. I hope that you will evaluate your options on the ballot, investigate the candidates, and choose wisely. Like I said last night, our country is at a crossroads, so it's really important this election cycle. So early voting again begins Tuesday, October 13th. It ends on Friday, October 30th. Election day is Tuesday, November 3rd. So please visit bastropvotes.com for more information. And we want to thank you for logging in, and we want to thank you for being a part of this candidate forum tonight, and we hope you have a great evening. Good night.